Hey, I am a man with my feet on the ground, nigga, I stand. I'ma face my problems, don't help in hands. I'm just saying that I never ran. Yeah. I had to ball in spite of the pain. I was tired of the losses, I wanted the game. I want the whole world to know my name. If I make it out, know I'm bringing the game. They my brothers, yeah, they know my pain. We don't share a mind, but I love them the same. Gotta stay humble, now I stay in my lane. Never let the money fuck with my brain.
Hey, welcome to Dream Tour, the podcast where we take you on a tour of many different types of people's dreams, goals, and aspirations. We're here to talk with a very special guest today. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Michael Cheselka. Stand-up comic, social commentary, political theorist, and hopefully a nice guy to just hang out with.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I actually went to the Funny Stop, and I was going to see the last comic that I had on because he said, hey, I'm going back to school. I'm doing a 10-minute opening. And you were the headliner that night, and it was the Thursday night show. It was just me and two other tables there that night, but it was great because we got to interact with you a ton.
Well, that was fun too, and like I said, it was a small crowd. It was an intimate crowd, but so was the Last Supper. I mean, a lot of stuff can happen. It doesn't have to be multitudes. But first off, hats off to Pete and the Comedy Stop, and the folks here in Akron-Canton for sticking it out and supporting live comedy. The Funny Stop goes way back, as do I. You saw some of the old
The Funny
headshots.
Stop when it used to be hilarious. Oh
Right.
my gosh, when you showed me at the end of the show your the picture of when you used to go through there, that was crazy. You've been going there a long time.
Yeah. And it was one of my first times back because, again, I find myself reinventing myself with what's going on and where we're headed and the stuff that needs to be talked about in this country. I want to go back to being the comic I was before. It's the most honest job I've ever had in my life.
I think this with COVID and also everything else going on in the world, it's not just COVID. There's a lot of complexities in the world. The world's always crazy, but this past year has been especially crazy. I think with the quarantine and what has gone on, I think a lot of people have taken like the first time in years to actually sit back and be like, what's going on? And people have actually sat back and reflected for the first time in a very long time. And I actually think that's one of the pros of what has went down is that there has been a lot of reflection and a lot of self-awareness created through this. But also, it's not all bright. But this is I'm a positive-minded guy. I'm an optimist.
I want to be. You're young. Humanity will temper some of that, but the flame's got to keep burning. But I have a story that just happened today that can put a lot of this in perspective. We are 2 days past the inauguration.
Yeah.
We made history in this country when Kamala Harris was inaugurated and sworn in as vice president. And being a little older, standing there, I'm a giant eagle. We're waiting to get in. There is a woman older than you, younger than me, there with two sweet little girls. And the little girl starts a conversation with me. She goes, my mask matches my jacket. I got my jacket for Christmas. And she's all very articulate. And I looked at the mom, and the mom says, well, she likes to talk. And I said, so do I.
Yeah.
And since we broke the ice like that, I had to ask her what's been on my mind and what I thought about a lot on Wednesday. And that was, I asked her, are you still proud? And she said, of what? And I said, well, we made history in this country. And I pointed to her two little girls, and I said, those two little girls will never know a world where it wasn't possible for a woman of color, any woman, to be elected vice president. And that mother looked at her daughters and looked at me, and she said, what I'm afraid of, and she points to her mask, this is going to change the world more than that.
Really? The mask?
Yeah. And I stood there, and she says, those girls are never going to know a world without wearing a mask. That's what she was afraid of. Now, that's why what you said, and the whole thing about dreaming, and the whole thing about doing the right thing, and the whole thing about finding that in each other, otherwise the other side wins.
Yeah. You have to, I mean, there's no, there's no right without a wrong. You
Right.
need, everything needs an opposite. You can't, because like if everything was right, nothing would be wrong, so nothing would be right. Like you need something to fight against. You can't have positivity without negativity. So like you need that something to worry about, something to, like if everyone is scared of the mask being forever, we need to fight. Like it gives the people who don't want the mask to be forever a reason to find a vaccine, to find whatever is going to be the thing that's going to make the people feel safe.
I fight to make putting on a mask, dealing with COVID, watching that little statistic so that it's not just like a little counter at the bottom of your TV screen and all of that stuff. I want this to still feel as weird next month as it did in March. Because 3 days before St. Patrick's Day, governor blew everything up. No parades, no gatherings, bars are closed, and everybody just has been in shock ever since.
Yeah.
And
But we're getting used to it.
well, not only are we getting used to it, what I just slippery slope, suspicious mind, comic, what the hell doesn't fit together here, is how easy it was for all the other changes that have come down the pike and used COVID as an excuse.
Yeah.
We'll get back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah.
I worked over the summer for the census. And I walked into a restaurant, I bought something, and then I said, I need to use your restroom. Oh, we can't use the restrooms now because of COVID. I said, wait a minute. All the other sick, twisted diseases you can get in a men's room, those were okay. But I can't because of COVID now. And a friend of mine supposedly went into Chipotle's and they won't let them order off the menu because you have to use the app and download and pay with, and nobody has cash. And it's like,
oh yeah, cash. It's interesting. Like at first, I remember going to the grocery store and then being like, "Oh, we don't accept cash," and I'm like,
yeah,
"You don't accept cash? That doesn't make any like."
No, it's just that's the kind of stuff about change the world. Be conscious of what's actually changing and what's you're giving away and all of that. I mean, well, you heard my act.
Yeah, I did. I really liked it.
So that's the reason why I wanted to come and talk with you. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this.
Any type of podcast,
Any kind
talk
of
show.
podcast.
Oh my gosh.
Any kind of. So there's a whole world that I've never sent a tweet. I've never been on Facebook. I've never been on Instagram.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't have a single tattoo. So I am whoa as far as.
Oh, a single tattoo. I've got a couple tattoos.
Yeah, duh. So anyway, like I said, I'm 65 years old.
Mm-hmm.
For 65 years, I've walked around, looked at the world, and said, "This is weird."
Of course.
Instead of, like you said, and I said, well, reality. 65 years later, I'm even more baffled than I was when I was a kid.
It just gets weirder.
It just gets and that seems to be okay. And the thing about it is, you look at the little kids being pushed around in strollers. It's not weird to them.
It's not weird.
Just
it's
the way
normal.
it is.
Yeah.
They have all the ambition, possibility, talent, perspective. But we have to make sure we still talk to each other.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I like to think about that a lot. So I have a great-grandma, and she was born in 1928. And in 1928, that was the same year of the beginning of the Great Depression, but also that was the same year that the first superhero comic book ever came out. Oh, wow. So the first superhero was written in 1928, and now that you can get on your iPad, go on Disney Plus, and watch hundreds of superhero movies, and at the tip of your fingers. How much has that world changed? Because she just got a hold of an iPad and got Netflix just this past year, maybe 2 years ago. She got a hold of an iPad and got a hold of Netflix, and living in a time when comic books were brand new, and it was bizarre that these characters could live. These characters could do things that weren't human. And that was a bizarre idea at the time. To now, we can create these universes with cinematic and CGI, and we can create these superheroes on screen and create these stories that I mean, Marvel Cinematic Universe is, I think, over 25 movies that all intertwine with each other, and they all exist in the same timeline, and it's this whole story, this whole, like, while this was happening, they talk about, you can, like, if you're watching, say you're watching Spider-Man, you can look on the TV screen, and the newscaster is talking about what's happening in the Iron Man movie. So it's like, this is things are happening all over the world in this universe, and they've created, like, how much things have changed just looking at superheroes. Like, it's crazy to think, like, what is the world going to look like when I'm 20 years old, when I'm 60 years old?
Well, even to think of the changes your great-grandmother's seen in her lifetime. Being a little bit older than you are, my grandmother, great-grandmother, go back even earlier than that, they didn't have indoor plumbing.
Wow.
They went outside and pumped a well for water. They went outside to use the bathroom. And they went from no electricity, no running water, to watching a man on the moon before cell phones, before the internet, before all the stuff you're talking about.
That's crazy.
The only thing that's different is artificial being stirred into the mix.
Yeah.
Because, close your eyes, and everybody at home do the same thing. Picture everybody you've seen so far today, or last week, or in the last 30 days. How many of them were walking around like this? Whether it was in a grocery store, in church, in a bathroom, everywhere. Driving in a car, we can't go anywhere without talking.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, well, that's okay because now we have freedom and it's all wide open and so on and so forth. What? We have artificial intelligence that we're just starting to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Which means the cat's already out of the bag. But that's another, we'll get to that later in the show. But what happens when they come up with artificial companionship? When you can pick up your phone and talk to an artificially manufactured friend of yours that says everything your sweet little heart wants to hear.
It's arguable that already exists.
Yeah, so
in some extent, like, you can play a video game and you can live a life that isn't yours. You can in Grand Theft Auto, it's an older game now. It's the Grand Theft Auto 5 is an older game now. They're going to come out with 6, but
it's the Pac-Man of, like, that generation of games.
Well, you can walk to you can walk around the city, you can get in a car and you can drive, and it's actually, like, it looks exactly like Los Angeles. Like, you can go to certain buildings and you can take like the new Spider-Man game that just came out. It's framed after New York. This guy took a picture from his apartment building in New York, and it's the exact, and then he took Spider-Man in the game, went to his apartment building, hung off of his window, and took a screenshot of the video game, and you can see it's almost the exact same quality, the picture in the video game, and it's the exact same buildings, the exact same, like, sun gleaming off of the windows. They can create these realities in these games that is so immense. The people who make those games are so talented with coding. It's insane.
Okay, and at the very same time, in this very same country, people within the sound of our voice, watching this, see it next week, maybe dial in after somebody else tells them, hey, go back or whatever. But through the course of their reality, are going to hear commercials for Jimmy Dean breakfast sausage.
Yeah, I have some in the fridge upstairs probably.
He's dead. He died 30 years ago.
Wow.
And every time that commercial comes on, goes, hi, this is Jimmy Dean, and you got to have breakfast in the morning, and sausage is really good for breakfast. And I'm going, you're dead, dude. And you know how many people don't even know that?
That's crazy. Yeah, I had no idea.
I can't think of...
He's been dead for 30 years?
Oh, yeah.
So he's been dead 10 years before I was born.
Yes.
And I thought he's been alive my whole life.
And he's talking to you about your breakfast every single morning.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think.
Yeah.
There.
What
it's
I
whatever
lament,
sells the sausage, you know?
I lament.
Now that we talked about it, I'm definitely going to see an advertisement for it, though, too. Now that you've said
Oh,
Jimmy
yeah,
Dean breakfast sausage,
yeah.
everybody that hears that, everybody that mentions that word, you're going to see it.
There was a special one just for Christmas.
Really?
Yeah. About how, family get together Christmas morning. How many other dead celebrities talk to you on a daily basis?
I don't know. That's quite, who knows?
And but we walk and talk and think and entertain ourselves so fast that there's no discernment. There's no biggest lie in America is we're just giving the customers what they want. How many times have you heard that? Well, we're just giving the people what they want. When was the last time anybody voted on any of that stuff? I got an invitation from my bank to download an app that gives my bank permission to just randomly go through my checking account. And whenever it finds money that it thinks isn't doing me any good, they can take that money and move it into a savings account. And I've said that to some people and have gone, oh, that's remarkable. And I just want to smack them. Do you know how, the more people touch your money, the less it's your money?
Yeah.
The original concept of the bank was you carrying a bag full of your money and going, put this in your safe so nobody steals it. And that was all the bank was supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Now, you'll get a phone call or a text message or whatever if you shop at a store for the first time. You've never been here before. Are you sure this is what you really want to do? Is this a fraudulent transaction? Oh, yeah. My God.
Well, and
get out of my pants.
The thing is,
get out of my wallet.
It's crazy because how many times do you hear about people who that does happen though now, where just because you have a debit card, someone can hack into the bank, get into the bank's network, and be like, here's a couple debit cards. I'm gonna go spend the money online. I'm gonna shop with these debit cards and do that now because I mean the internet is so new. It's people don't realize how new the internet really is because if
comparatively, yeah, right.
I mean, relatively, if you're thinking like humans have been around tech from most scientists say 10 to 12,000 years. So 10 to 12,000 years, and we've had internet for 50, and for 20 of them, 20, 30 of them, the general public can touch it. Universities have had it since universities have had private networks for probably I think since the 60s. So if we've had internet for that long, that is such a small fragment of human existence that we've had it. So we don't know what to do with it yet.
How much of it did anybody get a chance to vote on?
Oh,
how many people said I want that? Look at your phone. I said you heard my act. Mm-hmm. I walked through, and that guy really did come over and say, hey, I want to talk to you about adding and all the special features you can add to your phone. I said, it's my phone. I really don't care. But what made somebody, like I said, close my eyes and picture the millions and billions of times that growing up, I was near a phone, on a phone, saw a phone, was with somebody else that had a phone, used a pay phone, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And every single time I used and looked at a telephone, never once said to myself, God, I wish I could take a picture of my dick with that.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
So somebody in putting this thing together go, hey, let's put a camera in here, and then people would take a picture and just push a button, and everybody have it.
And now everyone can see it.
And then it's like...
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So one of the things I really liked was when you said if the internet went out for a couple days,
it will,
and you go back and check your bank account, and there's a different number in there, you probably wouldn't even know.
No, it's even worse than that. That is going to be the next 9/11 moment where everybody like, oh my God, it's got to happen. Nothing's perfect. So when the internet goes out for 3 days and your bank calls and says, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, don't worry, your $5,000 is still in the bank. And Mrs. Smith says to Mr. Smith, I thought we had $10,000 in the bank. And you call the bank, all the bank's going to say is, prove it. And you won't have a single scrap of paper. You'll have no way of telling your bank, I had $10,000 in my bank. Yeah. None. Which is why I also talked about, when I worked for the census, that I'd knock on doors and people your age and 10 years older, but still 20, 30, young, healthy, vibrant, prime of their life, would stand there and look at me and go, I'm not really comfortable giving the government my name and my birth date. But they've done all their banking online since they were 7.
Oh yeah, that one killed me in there because it's like, I won't give them my name and my birthday. The day you're born, then you get that.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. You're born and you give them that.
And I don't know. People say, well, I'm afraid of government because they might put a chip on our neck. The chip is in your hand.
Pocket, yeah.
You have it in your pocket. And like I said, when you have your artificial friend that you can talk to that will say and do whatever you want it to say or do, and you can just dial up the filth meter or the intelligence meter or the foreign language, whatever you're into, that's what will be coming through this end, and we'll just walk around
and not interact with each other anymore.
and that's what's missing.
Progress
it's the interaction that's missing.
Societal progress is made through people with opposing viewpoints having a debate, having a conversation about their separate viewpoints, and both people walk away and they go, I don't agree with that guy, but I agree with this one thing he said, and their viewpoint got broader.
Yeah.
So that's the growth of human intelligence.
Right.
That's how it grows. And when we go through the internet now, we actually we think we're speeding it up, but also we're speeding it up so fast that we're not taking any of it in.
It's interesting because building on that, and with some of the things you've said since we started, I just had an idea. Because and you said we're going to stop interacting with each other and everybody's in. I've had people tell me, why should we even bother going to school anymore? Because we have Alexa. You can just ask. If you have a question, you can just ask and you'll get the answer. We are going to reach a point where it dawns on somebody else besides me the fact that the proof of interaction being the absolute necessity at the beginning, the ancient Romans and the Vikings crisscrossed the oceans, traveled the seas, spread, and they had one thing in common. Some guy in the back of the ship going, row, 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 or beating a drum. And everybody had to pitch in and pull their fair share or they'd have never gotten there.
Yeah, of course. You can't do stuff alone.
Yeah, you can't. But everybody, that's...
I mean, shoot, that makes me think of the Planet of the Apes, Just the stick example. One ape, weak.
Yeah.
Group of apes, strong. Like, it's simple. It's simple that the only thing that made humans become the dominating species on the planet, the only reason there's 7.8 billion of us is because that we have worked as a community.
No. It's because we've done a lousy job of getting people birth control.
I mean...
Oh, that's the only thing we do is just... Because every couple that's responsible has had the conversation, honey, should we have a second child? And people that have no business reproducing have 20 kids. That's... Yeah.
Yeah,
That is the... freedom that will come under some scrutiny.
I think one of the benefits of the internet is that, if you have two parents that aren't the brightest bulbs in the lot, that's all the information you're getting when you're pre-internet. But when your two parents give you a phone at 8 years old, at least you have an opportunity to get some better information and develop your own thoughts on, like, you're able to develop your own opinions. I think that's one. There's bright sides and downsides to everything. Right. I think that could be one of the bright sides is that the future, these kids are able to be more independent from their parents informationally, because like the information you get from your parents is all you have pre-internet. You get what your parents tell you, you tell that to your friends, and that becomes your opinion. But with the internet, you can disagree with your parents and go online and do some research and be like, man.
And
I think they
if
got it
your
wrong.
Research takes you to QAnon or some alternative site that is nothing but
bullcrap, yeah.
Then how much better off are you? And like you said,
It's
all
the
those
opportunity,
people that give you this much limited stuff, then what are all we? Then
Have you watched The Social Dilemma?
Yes.
Oh man.
Yes. So my point is, why all the homeschooling? Why all the homeschooling when, like you just said, I can't imagine sitting down going, okay, let's start advanced chemistry. And you can't follow a recipe. or you don't cook. It's like, I don't get it.
Doing
I just don't get it.
studying physics and not being able to make yourself lunch. Yeah, I've met some kids like that in my time, and it does blow my mind that there's people out there that, if you put them in a house and they had to go grocery shopping and manage their bills, they couldn't do it. But they can tell you the velocity that the star is moving.
Now. 30, 40 years ago, everybody knew how to balance a checkbook. Everybody knew how to write a letter.
Did they?
Everybody could. Yes, they did, because
I feel like
it got done.
I feel like a lot of people did, but they're not teaching their kids to do it, and that must be on them.
Okay, now let's go back to what I said. Why are we carrying those that can't? You go to a grocery store, pick up a gallon of bleach. It says, do not drink. Let those people go.
Yeah.
We are the only species on the planet that doesn't thin the herd. Stupid animals don't get to have stupid kids. They're the ones that get eaten.
It's very true. That is true.
So, amuse yourself. Have all the recreational sex you want, but just.
Yeah, I don't know. I think nature, the systems of nature, people like to say that nature is nature. There's always going to be the survival of the fittest. There's the rules, the laws of nature are the laws of nature, and humans are a part of nature.
All right, then let me stop you for a second. Explain then what you just said about the internet and technology and all that other stuff. Is that a force of nature, or is that just the one little pod that everybody else has been forced to go suck from to stay alive? And if that's the case, then it's not evolutionary, it's not natural, it's not part of.
I don't think things from my personal belief, I don't think things can happen without being natural, because how then could it happen? Because it's humans, we are a force of nature. We are a powerful force of nature, and we don't necessarily know what we're doing. But I think through the course of history, we have made scientific and societal advancements. And with these advancements, at first we couldn't handle them. Stuff went wrong, and then eventually we figured out what parts of it were useful, and it's a long process of trial and error.
But we have to learn.
We have to keep this conversation going.
We have to learn how to talk with each other before we all end up having the conversation that says, where did the bus go and why aren't we on it?
Yeah. Elon's going to Mars in now 10 years. 10 years there will be human beings on the planet of Mars separate on a separate evolutionary track than the rest of us.
Okay.
That's crazy. That's crazy to think about.
Okay, but before we get all celebratory, there have been all kinds of, because you can't. There's too much under the rug now for people to not notice. Hey, what's that lump under the rug? Mm-hmm. But there have been 7 months of reports, admissions about what the government has and what's in files and on tape and audios of things that just when you have astronauts going, what the hell just flew past us? Mm-hmm. When you have pilots in the sky going, oh my God, where did that go?
So you've been reading up on that.
It
came out with what did it come out with? It came out with the stimulus bill, did it not?
It came out. They hid some of this, that, and the other. Some of it was scheduled. President Clinton, 20 years ago was like they were going to brief him, and he had the right to. And everybody's talked about, and Bell used to come on overnight and talk about, and the people have been interested, and on and on and on and on. But the point is, from my perspective, the biggest proof that these are superior intellect beings is they come all the way here, they fly around, and they don't stop.
Of course.
They just keep going.
They
come down, look at us.
These ape beings have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, and they're talking they talk to a little Alexa in their kitchen because they're too lazy to turn their own lights on. We've come 17 billion light years.
I think automation is intelligent, though. I think saving our energies to be used in a smarter way. If you're going to use it in a smarter way, it's good. But if you're using automation to do less,
okay,
it's not advancement.
Okay. I have a question though. When you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't sleep, and you notice, God, I'm really hungry,
Mm-hmm.
and you decide, if I don't get up and eat something, I'm never going to get back to sleep. And you paddle down to the kitchen. The whole way there, it's like, what do we have? What's sliced? What's what's in the freezer? And you open up the refrigerator and you make a plan. I'll have this. I'll have 2 pickles. I'll drink milk out of the carton, and then I'll go back to bed because I'll be full enough to say,
Mm-hmm.
Society happens with absolutely no plan that anybody knows about, and we're baffled that it doesn't work perfectly.
Yeah.
And for you to go, well, wait a minute, there are people out there that are engineering all of this. Well,
But people too. That's the people. I say this. Me and my girlfriend will have this talk, and I say, people are dumb. And she's like, you can't just call everyone else dumb. I said, I never said I'm not dumb.
right.
I said, people are dumb. We don't know what's going on. I have no idea what's going on outside of my personal perspective. And nobody else does either. So where along the line do we think that the person sitting in the chair knows any more than we do?
Okay, but here for me is the ultimate comic dilemma. Peace, love, tolerance,
Mm-hmm.
acceptance, equality, kindness, those mysteries we're no better at than we were 20,000 years ago.
Yeah.
But some idiot in a trailer park makes up a line dance, and 5 days later, the entire country knows how to do it. How does that shit happen?
I mean,
You look at them and it's like, well, excuse me, this is the part where we turn around. Really?
yeah,
The only unfettered freedom, the only freedom that we have in this country that hasn't been abridged, stepped on, I'll stop there, is the freedom to be as dumb as you want to be. Because you
that's a
can
beautiful
sit at
freedom,
home
though.
in your double wide, eat nothing but macaroni and cheese, and you can think to yourself that wrestling is real.
Yeah.
And that's well and good. But those people, I don't care who they think should be the president.
But
I just don't.
if you don't care, though, they don't care that you don't care.
I understand that completely.
Because,
But
perspective...
this is the dilemma we haven't even gotten to yet, let alone figure it out.
Yeah. I mean,
Reconcile different
you could say that
with equal.
You could say that problem even, like, saying that problem stems to the education systems. That problem stems to this that the government is working on. But there's so many different problems that you
But you know
can't
what?
focus on all of them.
No, not at all. Because there are kids right now with humble beginnings that don't have 2 nickels to rub together, that come from really what people would say is disadvantaged, that are the sweetest natured, curious, genius, talented, artistic. Maybe they can hit a softball or throw a football maybe they can just like read a book once and then, have 3 different alternative endings and will turn out to be. But we have to start at least putting on the facade that things are happening here on this planet on purpose because we want them to, and that we're trying to make it happen. Case in point,
I think
how much PPE has been washed into the ocean since COVID started, but nobody can say don't waste this, don't throw that, don't dump that, because right now we have a pandemic to deal with. So by the time we're done with COVID, every fish that gets pulled out of the ocean will probably have a mask on.
Mm-hmm. You know what's crazy is, so in a time where we have the most access to information ever,
Yeah.
I feel like people are like, I think that people seem to be less informed than as it seems to be in the past. I wasn't alive pre
Right.
this time, so I don't know from personal experience, but people seem to be less informed because there's so much information that you pick and choose what's true.
Right.
And that causes just confusion throughout the entire society. And when there's confusion, the strongest, the most confident dummy that speaks the loudest says, "This is true." And people are like, "He seems really confident about that."
Yeah, but see, that's what my argument was with everybody who thought that this past election was stolen. And then everybody that used it to their advantage and said, well, a lot of people think that something really suspicious happened. Yeah, but so what? There was a time where a lot of people thought that throwing virgins into volcanoes made it rain.
That's very true.
They were wrong too. They were all wrong. And just because a lot of people believe it doesn't mean. And that's the thing about, like you said, well, you can just pick and choose and define your own truth. No. If there are going to be standards, absolutes, and like you said earlier, there has to be right and wrong, there has to be wrong in order for there to be right, then here's the definition and here's the discerning thing. The truth is the truth, regardless of whether anybody even knows it or believes it.
That's true.
Okay? Because there was gravity before the apple hit Isaac Newton on the head.
Yeah. The
Lies, however, need believers.
Oh my! Wow.
There is no such thing as a lie unless there are misguided people spreading it. There are no lies without liars. There's plenty of truth for people that don't know it. Now, let's get curious and try to figure that out.
That was kind of mind-blowing. I like that.
Here's one of my answers or solutions. This is one of my projects that might help everybody. We need to start with Sunday.
With Sunday.
Sunday is one of the most segregated hours in America because we talk about racial equality, we talk about racial tolerance, we talk about racial justice, and we all go to our own separate churches.
Wow, yeah.
Why? Take an hour either during the ceremony or afterwards to break bread, introduce ourselves, shake hands, do cultural exchanges with choirs, Bible studies, preachers, so that we start to talk to and learn. Because trust me, a lot of what you're going to say or haven't said or insinuated is that, like you said, the person with the loudest voice or the people that think they have God on their side and so on and so forth. When Boston College plays Notre Dame, and they're both Catholic universities, and both sides are praying to God to help them win the game, how does he decide? Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So if we had an opened up dialogue along those lines, my goal in life, since that was part of the stated part, is I want a talk show because part of the problem politically in this country is 40 years of Rush Limbaugh. And no anecdote. But the answer to Rush Limbaugh, the antidote to Rush Limbaugh, isn't the other side being just as mouthy or wrong.
Yeah.
It's having the courage to say to both sides, you're both wrong.
Yeah.
It's what we create out of the admission, recognition, and humility of realizing we both, right and left, red and blue.
That's what this country was founded on. That was the ideas that we were. People argue that the Constitution's an old piece of paper. The Constitution is more than a piece of paper.
It was an idea. It was an aspiration. It was an ideal. It was a goal.
It's a belief that society, we can live and disagree and get better and be ourselves and grow for a better life for everybody.
It was a time where, and I can't change the fact that it is what it is, but there were learned men that sat around and looked at everything else and said, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, because they picked and chose from. We have the opportunity to do the same thing. I want that talk show where no matter who calls up, liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican, red, blue, white, black, rich, poor, I can sit there and say, no, you got a lot more to learn, and don't let that interfere with the lot that you have to offer. Because the one thing that I have lived by was put in my head when I was 17 by my debate teacher that said, until you fully understand your opponent's argument, you don't completely understand your own.
Yeah, that's
The more
great statement.
you learn about why somebody believes what they believe, the more you realize, oh, I agree with a little bit of that. No, I definitely don't agree with that. And the recipe for why you think about what you think about is based on. And right now, all people do is parrot what they've heard somebody else tell them to say and think.
It's very, one of the things that I'm a very positive, like, I actually think I think that the world's going on a positive path, and it's always going to be, and that's how I believe, because no matter what happens, at the end of the day, everybody goes to sleep, everybody wakes up the next, the people that wake up the next day, I think that 99% of people wake up in the morning and think, I want today to be a good day for me and the guy next to me. And I don't think people wake up and be like, I hate it. Not many people wake up and think, I hate everyone.
Have you ever heard of Woodstock?
Yeah, I have.
Have you ever heard of Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young?
No, I have not.
Okay. We can change the world, rearrange the world. Jefferson, Airplane, all of that rock and roll music that we can. There's the fifth dimension. When the moon is in the seventh house and Jupiter aligns with Mars, then peace will guide the planet and love will steer the stars. And that is my explanation for what went wrong. The moon never made it to the seventh house. And so that optimism that we're going to change, it was palpable. We ended a war.
Yeah.
Stopped a draft, which was a mistake we could get into for all kinds of other reasons, because that was the common denominator that tied everybody to the same suffering. But anyway, now people, when there's a conflict, go, well, if they didn't want to join the army, it's their own damn fault. But the draft made everybody go, what's my number? And pay attention. But my point is, every generation has, like we've talked about earlier, that same set of optimism. You see little kids' eyes being pushed around strollers. Curiosity turns into hope and optimism, and because you can be anything.
You need that.
I'm finally realizing at my age I probably will never play professional football. And you just get over it. You know, there are some people with more, banal aspirations that are depressed the day it dawned on them that they'll never live long enough to sleep with everybody. But you got to deal as you get older. So the light that triggers curiosity and figuring it out, it's going to take more people talking with each other than just talking on their phone.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it's the perfect time to start communicating again, which is why I've given everything else up, and all I want to do is go back to being on stage every night.
Yeah, I think one of the things like that is to think about though is with the young gen, I think that it's a cycle. I believe that life is a cycle that repeats itself. The young people come up, believe, they make the most change that they can. And I feel like the young people always disagree with the generation above them, because it's so much easier to see the flaws of someone than it is to see what they did right.
Okay.
Because
you just talked about an age and said this generation and all the young people. How many of that generation and how many of those young people are in the rooms that are designing the next iPhone and the next security system for your house?
None yet. Not yet.
But even at that moment, what percentage of it calls the shots and how many else? Because what you have to come to grips with is there are shepherds and there are sheep.
Of course.
And there are people that just go belly up and want to be taken care of. And everybody that says, and everybody that denies that says, oh, no, I'm independent. Really? What happens in this country when you flush your toilet? Nobody knows. It just goes away.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of everything and everybody else takes care of your own shit. You don't.
Yeah. I mean, I think society's it's got a ton of flaws, but I mean, I'm glad that I don't have to deal with that, you know?
Well, we have to play the hand we were dealt. I mean, you know, if you go back to the 50s and all those, you said comic books, things like Popular Mechanics, we were supposed to be living like the Jetsons.
Yeah.
You know, dinner was supposed to be a little pill. We were all supposed to have little porta packs and fly around and do all that stuff. You know, we had little robot dogs that would just poop in the house. You could pick it up with a magnet, and the house was clean. But that didn't happen that way. Things happen in ways that can't be, you know, foreseen, and you'll make the most of all it. But I'm tired of it just being an accident that people react to. Let's spend more time saying this is what's happening.
Things like these, like this
Exactly.
conversation right here.
Exactly.
The beautiful thing is, like, the kids, the people in my generation, the people that I see like me, the people that I would consider, you know, the dreamers and achievers. That's what I liked. The thing about this show is, you know, today's dreamers, tomorrow's achievers. Today, the young people, the people that are 20 years old, that are 18 years old, that are 16 years old, and they're just coming to age in a time like this. They can be something, but you have to realize that to fulfill dreams, you have to take steps. And this show is my steps to fulfill the dreams of spreading the message that is what, like, I want to spread that message to the world, that people that do take steps can feel fulfilled in their life.
And you're putting out a lot more effort than huge numbers.
Yeah, of course.
And if I had more, and I do, lots of pieces of advice to the generation and age group you're talking about, one thing I would say is stop listening to whiny ass music. I like that you're broke. You're broken like me. Maybe we could be broken together. Just shut up and move on. Dust yourself off and deal with it.
I think I don't like the flashy music. I don't like the I got money, I got girls.
None of that
I hate
stuff.
that. I'm not a fan of that.
No, I'm not. If your generation is going to contribute or do anything, you're good. We need all new music. It's just time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not just saying this because I've for my whole life, I think country music is white people's attempt to take back the dance floor. It's just nobody likes it.
Yeah, country music has turned to pop music too, and it has nothing to do with country anymore.
There has to be something to sing about to inspire the. I don't know.
There's the type of people that I hang out with listen to the type of music that it's not necessarily what is on the radio. It's not your popular music on the radio, but it's music that does have that positive message. And a lot of people will listen, like in my generation, will listen to older music from the 60s and 70s and 80s, like music that does have that message. I think, I actually am friends with a lot of people that believe that what you listen to is kind of like, you know, manifesting your destiny. What you're listening to is how you're going to think, it's how you're going to act, and it's how you're going to formulate your life. Because your mind is all the power that you have.
Then people
or your mind,
start
your mind and your body.
Rediscovering Pink Floyd.
Yeah. Your mind and your body is all the power that you are given. You're not given anything but opportunity. A young person, a person my age, I am unlimited potential at 20 years old. I am years and years of, if I spend my days working on my body, improving my mind, and improving on skills, every day I'm becoming less, what was the word I just used? I'm becoming more skilled and less of, I can't even remember the word I just said, but, you know, everyone is unlimited potential. Yeah, potential. Yeah. Okay. Every day that I do a task to create a skill, to create a better body, to create a better mind, I become less potential and more reality.
Is there anything about who we are and what we're doing that isn't completely transitory.
I think everyone makes themselves. I'm a believer in.
No, I don't mean individually, because that's the part of the problem is everybody is their own universe, which is just, like I said a long time ago or earlier in the show, we have to decide how we are going to reconcile different and equal.
I don't.
Because right now, there is no right or wrong. There's just different.
This is going to probably make people upset, but I don't like the term equality. I think the term that we should be using is equal opportunity.
Yeah, but take equal and different. You can't reconcile those two. They're not the same. And a culture that says, well, we have to hide from this because... I'll give you an example. For anybody listening at home, find, I dare you, a copy of Vinny Shinblind, The Invisible Sex Maniac.
What?
That was a monthly cartoon in National Lampoon, which was the Bible if you were in high school, between 69, 73, 77, whatever. Mm-hmm. Vinny Shinblind was invisible, and he was a sex maniac.
Of course.
And he used to show up and do all kinds of nasty, rude, ungodly, illegal things and get away with it because he was invisible. And everybody that was in my peed themselves. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
You can't even find it now because people can't.
People are offended.
They trust, like, oh my God, they might be offended.
Comedy.
Now, here's the thing. It's not just something as simple as Vinny Shinblind. I was in Rome. Mm-hmm. I just came out of looking at Michelangelo's David, which is life-changing.
Yeah.
I walked and saw a building across the street that was twice his size, the one that David is in. Mm-hmm. And I asked the curator, what's in that building? And the curator said, those are all of the statues that Michelangelo carved that are too erotic to put on public display. And I thought to myself, what? Wow, this is 1995.
Art?
And people can't handle looking at whatever it is that Michelangelo carved because it's too erotic. But if you were around in 1528, you could just hang out with him because that didn't bother people then.
Well, in 1528, there was no such thing as a stall. There was a bench. And
okay.
You sat right next to someone.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just watching The History of Curse Words. They get a bunch of comics and they talk about the history of swear words. It's on Netflix. It's a very funny series.
Yeah.
And they were talking about like the difference in the times back then when these words that like the common words that we use today started to form in the 1600s.
Right.
And they were talking about the history and like what it was like back then is when you went to the bathroom back then, there was no privacy, there was no stall, there was no bathroom, there was a bench, there was 3 benches. So you were sitting staring at someone across from you, someone was sitting next to you, someone was right there.
And if it was full, you went in the street. I mean,
yeah.
it's like, yeah.
It was a time when people were less. People live with what they're used to. They get used to things, and then
Did you ever see the series Deadwood?
No, I haven't.
Okay, the language supposedly of the Old West was peppered with what would be considered profanity today. Yeah. That was just, par for the course.
Yeah, of course.
And that was But that's my point. If you're going to triumph over it, if it's going to reach a point where it doesn't offend anymore, if you're going to overcome it, it's not going to be from hiding it and pretending it doesn't exist. They took Huckleberry Finn out of English classes and wouldn't let high school kids read it because the N-word was in there.
Really?
But you can't read Huckleberry Finn because of the N-word. Try finding me a top 40 rap song that doesn't use the N-word.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's not too many.
So that's what I mean about different and equal. If I can't say that as a white person because it offends people, why doesn't it offend the people that use the word all the time?
Yeah, that's a good
That's
question.
what I meant about this side doesn't have it right, that side doesn't have it right.
No, yeah, I don't think-
Together we have to create a new reality.
Yeah, and I think that people like you in society are the people that bring up that we need to create a new reality. Here's the problems. And if you're going to have someone who's going to put the problems on the table, you need somebody who's going to I'm not going to come to the table and I'm not going to take all the problems and I'm not going to solve every single problem on this table. It's a pile of problems. As an individual, you have to look at the pile of problems. Don't be overwhelmed by this pile of problems on the table, because guess what? There's 330 million people in the United States of America. If everyone goes and picks one problem that they think they can help, they'll be solved. And you'll feel fulfilled. You'll have in this book here, The Happiness Equation, there's this Japanese word called ikigai. And ikigai is purpose. It's why you get up in the morning. It's what you do during the day to make you feel fulfilled. Because human beings, we're working creatures. You aren't happy with yourself when you sit at home and you don't do anything. Or when you go to a job that you don't love, you don't sit down at the end of the day and feel fulfillment. To feel fulfillment, you need to have purpose. And there's so many purposes out there, but people are so overwhelmed by I can't make a difference because you're getting a million problems. You're on Twitter. I actually removed Twitter from my phone because Twitter, people just complain about problems and do nothing about it. And complain and do nothing. I can't get behind that.
I'm all for that.
I pick the problems that I think I can help with. I think we are lacking inspiration. I think we are lacking motivation. And
this is why I still think
we're stuck in confusion. So I'm trying to spread my message out to everyone that likes to tune into these. And I'm trying to influence the people that choose to tune in and watch this. They are receiving a weekly little motivation that says, go make a difference. You can do it. I'm making my difference. You go make your difference. I do this in my basement for dirt cheap. I lose money on this because I don't want to make money off this, because that's the statement that I'm making.
Okay.
That I'm not trying to, this show, I'm creating other shows and stuff. Those shows will be the business side. But this show is never for turning profit. And it never will be, because this show is about the message. And I think when you interchange those two things, you lose one or the other.
Okay.
I went on
There's
a
no, but there's a lot of that is mirror image of a lot of dichotomies that we have talked about. I mean, when you said earlier about the fact that every young person has that optimism, dynamism, vision.
I don't know if they do.
No. Yeah,
you have no reason not to as a young person.
I still think that the reason why I have plenty to offer that's helpful to anybody that wants to talk, or anybody that's curious, or anybody that I can save from stubbing their toe the same way I did, et cetera, is because I never grew up. So that optimism way of looking at things that you said, I've never lost that, because I've felt the same age my whole life. You
can sit and talk about what's wrong and still be optimistic, because
of course
problems, opportunities, to me, problems and opportunities are synonyms.
Okay, let's put it in medical terms. When two really, really talented surgeons put up a really nasty x-ray and say, after studying it, look at each other and go, let's go do this. I think we can make it work. Mm-hmm. If there isn't that going on all over the world in all kinds of situations, and all you have is people throwing their hands up and quitting every time things are hard,
we're never going to go anywhere.
We're never going to go anywhere. Any more than I want to be that guy in camouflage with an AK-47 guarding bottled water and toilet paper from everybody else who's out trying to get some.
Yeah.
When the world is at that stage, and I hear that, the meteor's coming to downtown Cleveland, I'm going to run to Public Square. I want it to hit me in the head. I don't want to run to the hills and survive and be around.
That's actually, that's a really interesting thing to bring up here, because I'm like that statement there, I don't know which side I'm on there. I'm still undecided on a lot of things in my life on where I stand, because I still need to experience some stuff before I decide where I stand. Or I'll never decide where I stand, and I'll just stand where I'm at, I guess. But in a situation like that, the world's coming to an end. I want to be prepared. I want to have I think it'd be super fun to have access to live in the middle of nowhere or to at least have a place in the middle of nowhere with access to water and open areas. I feel like that'd be fun. That'd be a super cool dream of mine. I like camping. I like outdoors stuff.
Right.
That's a super cool dream of mine. And also if you have that, I think with guns and stuff, I am getting a CCW for my 21st birthday. I think that people should. I think guns are fun. I think it is our right to have a gun, but that's just but also if the world was gonna end, I don't think I'd want to be the person sitting around after the world ended.
Thank you.
I don't know which side I'd stand on there because I love the idea of being in the middle of nowhere and having my stuff and not having to deal with people because people, as much of a people person that I am, I feel like that even more makes I'm relatable. I conversate with different types of people all the time. I have so many different variations of people on this show, from rappers to comics to businessmen to whoever has a dream or a standpoint that I could sit and talk with. I love people, but also everyone needs that getaway too. Everyone has that side that I'm gonna go sit there with my gun and protect my water and protect my family and do that. But also everyone, I don't know where I'm going with this. I don't know if I have an end point here. But I guess
You don't have to.
You don't have to. It's interesting to think what pushes a person to go that far, to disappear into the woods and not deal with people anymore. Because we're gonna run out of spaces in the woods if we keep pushing people the way we are.
Well, no, it's not like the woods are full of, but there's an awful lot of people that have learned to walk upright, but still aren't that far removed from the people that. But it's like you said, you have to want to participate. You have to want to care.
You don't have to agree with everyone to care about your thing.
No, what kind of
world is it where everybody has to agree? I don't want to live in that world.
No.
I just took the you ever taken the 16 personalities test? A lot of different. I took it at I was a marketing student,
Okay.
Marketing entrepreneurship student at the University of Cincinnati for 2 years, and I ended up dropping out, starting this, and I actually am launching a pretty cool business venture with my dad without my business degrees,
All right.
but. In there, we took this thing called the 16 personalities test. It's a personality test that is built not like other personality tests off of what they think a personality is. It's built off of surveys, statistics, and interviews. So they have these really interesting profiles, and my profile was a debater. I don't want to live in a world where I can't debate with someone and become I look at an argument, a debate, a disagreement as an opportunity to learn someone else's perspective.
What were we saying earlier? It has to be that.
And when you lose that, you stop learning.
You can argue for hours with somebody intelligent and never have it come close to being a fight.
Mm-hmm.
You can't argue for 2 minutes with somebody who's ignorant because it will automatically turn into a fight.
Yeah, I always sometimes when you see someone who's very ignorant, or ignorance is bliss. There's this jealousy. It's like, man, I wish I could live in a world where everything was new.
Well, I
or
get
something
that.
like that. There was one of my favorite comics, or one of my favorite comedy bits was. It was just one I saw on YouTube. It was like, man, I really wish I could walk into the you ever been to Five Guys and seen the Coke machine that has all the hundreds of options? I wish I could walk in there, see that thing, and be like, mind blown every single day. The opportunity to have your mind blown every single day is beautiful.
Okay. But here's what I mean about absolutes and not either or, this, that. My mom told me a story. I don't know if I was 8, 9, 10, whatever, but the TV repairman was coming over to the house because he had to replace tubes on our TV set.
Tubes?
Yeah. My mother said, don't you dare go in that little toolkit that he carries, because the TV repairman has bugs that are in that box that will bite anybody's hand that's not the TV repairman's. And I was little enough to go, oh my God, and I never stuck my hand in that box because one day I'm coming home from college and I thought to myself, she lied. My mother lied to me. There's no such thing. There were no bugs in that TV. Now, my mother said that to keep me from getting into trouble and doing something. Now, that, some people will go, oh my God, your mother lied to you. She misled you. She created, and then she had no business warping your little mind and not being totally honest. Okay, today I'm coming out of a store and a parent, somebody who gave half of a genetic code to somebody, turned to their kid and said, get over here or I will beat the living shit out of you, to a 4-year-old. Now, one parent told their child the truth and leveled with them and was honest with them. And one parent told a story, a fabrication, made something up, and deceived their child. Name the better parent. Or I'll knock your... Oh, never mind.
I don't think you can.
You can't.
Because
it is,
parenting, you can't comment. Like, that's one of those things. You can't comment on another parent's. That's one of the few things that I agree that, like, you shouldn't talk about someone else's viewpoint on. I think you can challenge anyone's viewpoint on anything, but on parenting, I guess you can. I don't know exactly where
I've asked you a million times, and you are no closer to being able to answer than when we started. And I'm not saying there is one. Mm-hmm. I'm just having this conversation with you. But is there right or wrong, or is there just different?
I don't think... No, there's no right or wrong.
Wow.
I don't think there could be. I think there's just different.
No. It's just like the idiot that comes up and got in my face and started an argument over what right the federal government has to tell me that I have to wear a mask. The government has absolutely no right to tell me. I said, yes, they do. What right does the government have to tell me I can? It's the same right that the government has to tell me I can't come over to his house and finger his girlfriend.
I mean, and you have the same right to disobey that they have to tell you.
It's not a right. It's just because there wouldn't.
They can tell you whatever. So anyone can tell you whatever they want to tell you. That's the freedom. Like, you're free to say whatever you want to say to anyone you want.
Yeah, but free is FREEDOM, not FREEDUMB. We live in a world that's FREEDUMB. That's where we are today. That's why we have to talk.
Yeah.
Because this may not be the end of the world, but it sure as hell is dress rehearsal.
Yeah, I mean, I think every I can't speak for past generations, but I feel like every generation thinks that they're I think at every point in the world, people are worried that the decisions they're making is going to end the world. And I think this actually relates to that statement you said, good parents think, should we have a second kid? I think good citizens, good members of society think, are we messing up? Are we doing this wrong? Asking that question and having that conversation is what makes you a good member of society.
But you haven't even added the cultural dimension to that. The whole world is in America.
Yeah. I focus on the problems that I focus on. I can't focus on too many things. I'm not.
I get that, but you shouldn't care about what happens to the ocean because most of the pollution comes from China, so it's their fault?
No, I think you can care all you want, but what are you gonna do? Are you gonna go and join a protest in China?
Nah. Again, like you said, it's what motivates you to get out of bed.
Yeah, you need everyone needs to pick their issue, pick their couple issues that they have the time to focus on. Like, people want to be warriors for justice. What is justice? Where are you fighting? Where are you fighting for justice?
No, they don't.
Pick a spot and make a change.
People were just like, we're burnt out. This is they're having psychological problems dealing with the fact that this virus has gone on for. And I thought to myself, Anne Frank hid in the attic for 3.5 years.
That's insane. That's bizarre.
People like rode for months backbreak to like cross an ocean. Here's the thing. This was the answer to a couple of things when I was way younger. Because the big issue back in my day when I had to register for the draft was whether or not they should let gays in the military. And that was the easiest way to pretend that you wanted to get out of going to Vietnam, was that you weren't straight because gays weren't allowed in the military.
Really?
But I debated in high school. I said that. And I said to myself, if you look at the war between Spain and Belgium, Spain and the Netherlands, in those days, in the 12, 11, 13, 14, 15th century, when the king said, we are going to go to war with Belgium, they had to walk
To Belgium.
from Spain to Belgium.
And they just did it.
And there were only men in the army.
Mm-hmm.
So don't tell me there weren't gays in the military.
Yeah.
It was either that or a lot of scared horses.
Yeah, I mean...
So my point is, this is all back to... So then, on a universal level, because from the beginning, philosophers, and the questions have been, are we this? Are we made of that? Is it nature versus nurture? If you study literature, there are only 3 plot lines. There's man versus nature, and man versus himself. I dare you to come up with a plot that is different, that isn't one of these 3.
Yeah, the
So
basic storytelling.
if there are some key universals, what kind of blooms come from there, and what do all we're trying to find is the pressure points where we can make things better, smoother, faster, easier, and let everything else happen that happens. I'm not saying that we're ultimately going to design the ultimate.
There's no such...
This isn't,
utopia and dystopia are the same thing, you know?
Yeah, I do. And here's the thing. If you're trying to get from here to Mars, you have to do it perfectly.
Of course.
Because if you fuck up one
fall, no one
over
makes it.
with. But we're not talking about one trip to one place. We're talking about everybody going everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is part of what scares me about this whole pandemic thing. And we started talking about all the things that have changed. Are we ever going to have concerts? Are we going to ever have 50,000, 100, 200,000 at a football game? Are we going to be able to just throw your passport on there and travel the world? Are you ever going to hit big with the business that you're starting with your dad to a point where you go, Pop, you run things. I'm going for 3 months. When I get back, it's your turn. Yeah. You know what I mean? That kind of... Is this the beginning of the powers that be telling everybody indiscreetly, well, there are only so many resources, so from now on you live at home, you don't visit, you don't do this, you don't do that, because we waste food. We go. I mean, I don't even want to start to have the conversations, but I'm chomping at the bit to start having them one by one, either on stage, in a club, with an audience, or over the phone, on the radio. Yeah. That's what needs to be done, and start the ball rolling. And again, like I said, everybody that's listened tonight, go to church on Sunday, talk to whoever is running everything, and let's start with Sunday movement and claim the fact that it started here.
Yeah, I think that the conversation about the betterment of the individual is the same conversation that's the betterment of the whole society, of the benefit of the betterment of culture, of the betterment of the human race.
Would you at least agree in the things that your better angels that you've been alluding to, that one key element is an element of humility?
I think
of shrinking yourself to a position of being able to see everything else, as opposed to self-aggrandizement where you think that you are some sort of shaman or ringleader.
Humility and self-awareness I think they're very similar words. I've
Fair.
always said that self-awareness is the key to success. If you have a good balance of self-awareness, knowing that you are just a person who knows what you know, and you are just a 1 in 7.8 billion, but you can make as big a difference as you're willing to work for.
Right.
A combination of self-awareness and confidence can take you to achieve whatever dream that you come up with. Because if you have self-awareness, you're only going to dream a dream that is possible.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with dreaming the impossible
And making it
that something to get there or strive for. But mine was more along the lines of saying the more self-aware you are, the more you realize you have to learn.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, I am so fucking cool, it drips.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you have to, but you also do have to look at yourself in the mirror and go, I'm freaking awesome. I am, because if you lose that and you just focus on how small and how humble you are, if you focus on one end or the other, it's too much. Every aspect of life, no matter what it is, there's a balance somewhere that is, it goes too far this way, it swings back this way. It goes too far this way, it swings back this way. Life, every aspect of every system has a balance that is always a little bit too far to this way, so everyone's like, oh, let's go back this way, and then they push it too far, and then it swings back, and
that's why God gave every man a different sized dick.
Oh my gosh, you should have been. I was at the funny stop on Wednesday, and they were joking about this.
He knew that everybody was going to compare and brag and this, that, and the other thing about you, but as long as it feels the same when you come, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
Period.
At the end of the day, no matter the guy who has the nicest bed in the world, and the guy who is sleeping in a tent, they both sleep, and they both wake up.
And you can have the most luxurious bedroom house
And not
on
be
the
able to
planet.
sleep.
But if you got a guilty conscience and you can't sleep, as opposed to the guy who has nothing, did his best, is a good person at heart, so on and so forth, sleeps like a rock.
Yep. Sleep is that thing that we're all entitled to. Everybody is entitled to sleep, and what you do with your life is, I think how well you sleep at night is based on the decisions you make during the day, and that's how I like to judge. That's how I like to judge my days. Is at the end of the night, I like to think about what I achieved that day, what goals that I set up. Like I set simple goals. I like to work out most days. I like to work out 4 days a week. I like to read 25 pages, read for 20, 30 minutes a day to get smarter. I like to do one thing towards this podcast, be that posting something to make people aware that this podcast exists, or, finding someone, recording a podcast, editing a podcast. I like to do my one goal. I set simple things. I only do 3 to 4 things a day towards my dreams, but I do 3 to 4 things every day. How many people do 3 to 4 things every day?
I made up a line dance once.
Did you do it in a trailer park?
Just kidding. No, it's just...
Let me ask you a couple of the questions I got that I like to ask on my podcast here.
Okay.
So,
Oh, you mean this is just still the introduction part?
No. But I'm gonna ask you a couple of the things that I like to get in. So, we've really got to know you and how you think and how you are a mediator of society. I mean, and as a comic, I feel like that is a role that you need to play. That's a role that comics need to play in society. Is I need to feel like I'm sitting slightly outside and watching both sides, making fun of everybody, and jokes are jokes, but jokes are also something bigger.
One of the reasons why I'm dying to get back is I recognize and accept the responsibility of the fact that we are descendants of the old court jesters. Where as long as you painted your face and put bells on your toes, you could walk up to the king and go, "You're really an idiot." And everybody would laugh. Without the makeup, without the bells, without the shtick, you get your head cut off.
Yep.
So every night I can come out on stage, hold a big mirror up, and everybody points and laughs because they think I'm talking about somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I bet you, and there's a few people out in the crowd who recognize that you were talking about them.
Yeah, there are.
And then they...
And all art is supposed to do is move people off ground zero. I got so tired of people that really aren't comics. They just need a therapist.
Yeah.
They
but,
just truly have.
Hey.
But whatever.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, just the people who aren't comics, though, they don't end up becoming big comics. They don't end up... Yeah, actually, there's some people who...
Yeah, there are some...
There's always gonna be the person who makes a song that sounds like their last song because they know that marketing strategy works.
Yeah,
but
right.
also there's gonna be people who do the art to do the art.
Right.
And I think that the people who do the art to do the art, they'll transcend in the long run.
Yeah.
But one of the jokes of life is the people who do it right don't get noticed until they die.
There's a lot to be said about all of that stuff.
There's a lot of jokes. I think, whatever you believe in, God, the universe, the creator, whatever your standpoint is, he's got to be whoever it is has a sense of humor.
Yeah, although I do have a piece of advice for the people that aren't of the praying kind to start with. With the COVID, with the world changing, with the way things are going, if you're being moved or torn or think to yourself, well, maybe I should say a prayer, maybe I should do not kneel down, look up to heaven and ask, oh my God, how much worse can things possibly get? Because that is God's favorite prayer to answer. You will get the answer to that prayer in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
He'll show you. Do you think it's bad? Now watch this.
Yeah.
It's the old, God, please make my hand like the other hand. And, that's, be careful what you wish for.
I think I'm not a huge prayer. I don't really do prayer. I'm in a point in my life where I think most 20-year-olds are, where you're not quite sure where you stand yet on your beliefs. But I still try to take as much time to be thankful as possible. And being thankful for what you do have, being thankful that the 1 in 4 trillion chance that your DNA code was passed on from the other 4 trillion sperm cells that could have not been you. You're 1 in 4 trillion, and you're you. Appreciate the things about you that you can. Be thankful for what you do have, and when you sit down and be thankful for what you do have, it opens your mind to I do want more. I want more, but wanting more isn't enough. I'm a go grab it. I'm a go grab it guy. I went and grabbed a microphone, had no idea what I was going into. I said, I have a big dream. Let's talk about dreams. Let's do this. And 20 some episodes later, the show, there's articles written about this show. There's just a small magazine just recently wrote an article about me. People are talking about it. The show is growing, and it's just going to keep doing that. And it's the reason that things happen the way they do for me is I'm thankful for what I do have, and I strive for more. It's simple. No matter what you believe, if you're religious, not religious, be thankful, strive for more. Be thankful and strive for more, and I think everything is so overcomplicated. At the end of the day, you should always stop thinking about how complicated everything is and think about how simple everything is, because however you want to think about it, that's how it is.
Okay.
But going off that,
okay,
getting in, how did you let's talk about just some regular more small talk type things. How did you get into comedy? What made you start?
I was at UCLA and I was dating a girl whose father was a producer. He made radio, television commercials, movie trailers, and he asked me to go for a walk one night on the beach, and I thought it was going to be this father-daughter, what are your intentions kind of thing with...
Mm-hmm.
But he looks at me and he says, I wanted to get you out of the house and tell you this so that you could just think about it without everybody else's input. You are funnier than the people that we audition all day. You should be a comedian.
Really?
And I looked at him, and it was, like I said, the farthest thing from... So he planted that seed. I drove home. I went up on stage the following Monday at the Comedy Store, which was amateur night. I sucked.
Of course.
But it felt like home. It just felt like home. I came up with these, I'm writing jokes like, I still remember this day. I went to a Chinese porno film. An hour later, I was horny again. But it felt like home. I talked about my stuff, got off stage, and looked at the audience, look at me like I had 3 eyes. And it was like, I can do this. And so I worked at it. And I got my first road paid gig because the guy who was a headliner was a drug addict, and he had no money and no car, and he told me, if you drive to Palm Springs, you can feature for me.
Really?
So I drove to Palm Springs.
Beautiful
I featured
opportunity.
for him. The next day, he was way too high in his hotel room to go on stage. The club owner says, okay, smartass, now you have to go do an hour and a half. And I did.
Really? Oh my gosh.
That was the start of my comedy career.
How many different
Phyllis,
places have you traveled?
I have been to all 50 states. I've been to at least 5-10 cities in each state. I've been to 38 foreign countries.
That's awesome.
I spent 8 years working on cruise ships.
That's awesome. Cruise ships. Oh, you did. You did tell the cruise ship.
Oh, God,
cruise ship jokes.
It was a whole different world back then.
Oh gosh, the cruise ship jokes are very funny. When's the next? Will you be on stage in the Cleveland, Akron area anytime soon?
I hope so.
Do you have anything set up yet?
What I got set up was Pete and the Comedy Stop. I mean, if there's a commercial, if I have to plug something on this, it's going to be Pete and the Comedies.
The Funny Stop,
because they're
great people. They're
one
great
of the
people.
last bastions of what comedy clubs used to be, should be, and need to be again. Cleveland's a great audience. Cleveland, Akron, Northeast Ohio, this whole area. People are honest, they're genuine, they're real, they're blue-collar working hard. All the stuff we've been talking about tonight didn't go over anybody's head. Nobody missed it. Nobody's baffled, like, what are they talking about? They get it.
Mm-hmm.
They're salt of the earth. That's why I want to do the radio show here, WNIR, if you're listening. But in the old days, there's 52 weeks in a year then and now.
Mm-hmm.
But in the old days, all you had to do is know 50 bookers.
Real, yeah.
Because you work 50 weeks out of the year, and that's how hard a booker had to. And the comic owner only needed to know 50 comics. So driving, headshots, resumes. Nobody said, "Do you have a YouTube video? Can you send me a disc?" It was just like, that's the hardest part of coming back. People go, "Well, do you have it?" No. I mean, this is my first podcast.
Yeah.
So when you said, "What are your plans?" we taped the 4 shows I did at
The Funny Stop.
Funny Stop. So when I get those, when I can figure out how to set up a Google Drive so that I can get those tapes and take a look at them, I will build audition tapes out of that and send them out to the people that are waiting for them in New York and Miami and go from there.
Now, Miami, that's funny. We were making fun of the Miami comedy scene here with Carter two weeks ago. Yeah, because this is going to come out on Sunday, I believe, on Sunday the 24th. But we were sitting making fun of the comedy scene, and we were talking about how Joe Rogan, he's a big inspiration of mine just because, he revolutionized the podcast game. He starts a podcast where he talks about nothing but talks about everything,
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I did something similar, but I have a little bit more of a theme than he does. But he said on the one thing, he said, you ever want to go broke, open a bookstore in Miami. He said the comedy scene down there is different. You really gotta tell your jokes for people who been on the beach all week, don't even remember.
I will tell him and any other comic listening, it is never the audience's fault.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
You just didn't reach into your quiver and pull out the right arrow.
You don't think... So, I mean, I've never done comedy or stood in front of a crowd, but the energy of the crowd, you don't think it has to be at least open-minded? You don't think people come in with preconceived notions? And
I'm not up there to be because I'm hungry for applause. I'm just as satisfied if I piss everybody off and they learn something.
Yeah, I mean...
And they learn something.
That's a really interesting perspective, but that's a really true to yourself perspective, and I can really
said at the
appreciate
beginning,
that.
it's the most honest job you'll ever have.
I really love the role that comics play in society, and I've been really getting into... I've always loved stand-up comedy, but, I've loved mainstream stand-up comedy, and just recently I've been getting into checking out the whole culture behind it, and I'm really I'm hoping to check out some older comedy, like to see the history, because I've heard about the history. I've talked about the history. Do you have any recommendations?
Also check out the older audiences, and this is something anybody can do. There was a movie made about the $100,000 pyramid, the quiz show scandal. I think that was the name of the movie, quiz show. But they rigged it. The one guy had the answers, won all this money. The whole audience, the world, the country was captivated, this, that, and the other thing. But if you watch that movie, you're looking at secretaries, taxi drivers, businessmen, all the people that you talked about having on your podcast, plain old normal folk, right? And before we even started, I said, hats off to you, because you can have a conversation with anybody, no matter who's sitting on the other side of the mic. And you said, I'm trying. That's what you're.
Yeah.
Okay, so on this movie quiz show, they're asking questions about philosophy, Renaissance art, geography, history, and these normal people that have been through public school and have got to have all the answers. They're answering all these questions that are harder and harder and harder, and you're sitting there going, oh my God, I didn't know the Danube River and Prince Jacob and the 39 Years War and all this stuff and things, and then go put on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, where they, you got a lifeline and you can ask, and the host says, what is larger, a diamond or a grapefruit? And the contestant goes, can I make a call? Because they need help.
What?
Oh, the audience is what's... In the old days, I'll give you an example. The number one TV show to this day was still The Honeymooners with Ralph Cramden. Okay? Jackie Gleason would walk on set, and at least once every half hour, he'd make a fist, he'd look at his wife and go, one of these days, and this, boom, to the moon. Now, could you even pitch
a show
to HBO? HBO, where you can have full frontal nudity and gay orgies, and that's fine. People just like, oh, that's, this is part of the plot. But he, oh my God, he threatened his wife. He said he was going to hit a woman. HBO, they can't show that. You can cut somebody's head off with a dull knife, where it just takes them a really long time to cut it off, and the blood squirting everywhere. But you can't show that, which is why, like I said, you want to watch an old comic? Watch Don Rickles.
Don Rickles?
Insult every... Here, I'll write it right here on the set. Don Rickles. Because he would go insult everybody, and all his stuff was offensive. And people would walk out of there and not say to themselves, "Oh my God, he's really inconsiderate and rude." They would walk out and go, "I'm Slovak. He didn't say a damn thing about us." They felt cheated because it was comedy. It was healing. Even at a funeral, comedy is what starts the healing process, because it's not until somebody in the family takes the lampshade and says, "Remember when Uncle Henry did this?" And the family laughs and starts to come out of the grief.
Yeah.
So now in comedy clubs, when I watch these wimpy ass need therapy loser kind of,
I was at amateur night this Wednesday at the
Okay.
Flame Stop. There's a lot of that.
Yeah. But my point is, the audiences now, nobody will laugh out loud. Everybody's got to look left and look right and see if it's okay to laugh, which goes back to what I said. Give me 2 hours with that audience, and I won't leave till the last person goes, "That's it, I've had enough," and walks out. I will consider that a success.
The night I went there with the 3 tables, I sat right up front. I sat right where the comics were walking up on stage, and they made fun of both the other people at my table. They made fun of the couple right here, and they made fun of the whole other table that was sitting in the distance. I was sitting there at the end of the night. I was like, dang it.
Right.
Was I not laughing loud enough? Because,
They figured, oh my God, it's one of the comics' relatives, so we're going to leave him alone.
yeah, I like that when I got in there for the amateur night on Wednesday, and I couldn't sit up front. I was like, dang it. I go in there with the intention of I hope someone makes fun of me. I wear something I want someone to be like, look at this 20-year-old. Look at this young guy. He has no idea what's going on, There's so many jokes you can make.
We can say pretty much anything on this show, right?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
You were there the night, were you there with the
there.
guy that did the guest set and talked about nothing except whether or not he masturbated? As a matter of fact, the first line out of his mouth was...
Was it a Thursday?
Yeah, I masturbate. Well, no, I don't. Well, really, I do. And then,
Maybe.
do you remember that?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I was so tempted to go up there and do 5 more minutes building on his dilemma because... And if he's listening, this is the God's truth. He is so stuck on the fact that he's touching himself that he's at the crossroads of, do I dare taste it? That's his whole dilemma. That's his whole bit.
Yeah.
So that's how his career blossoms if he stays on that track.
Yeah.
If he doesn't have another thought, and it's going to be pretty hard to do a whole album. You can't do an HBO special on... I turned the water on really hard so that nobody else could hear. Anyway, you got to have a point of view. You have to move people off of ground zero.
See, that's where I've been... So I've been debating going up for a 5-minute amateur night for probably 2 or 3 months, but I don't know where my point of view lies. I'm such a my point of view of the world is such a perspective of I don't think anybody's wrong. I don't think anybody's right. I just think everybody's trying and nobody knows what they're doing.
Right.
So I don't know where that lies on a comedy point of view spectrum, because
Then, I don't mean to be, but you're not a comic.
Yep.
Picasso had to paint.
Mm-hmm. I guess that makes me a show host.
Well, no. Or creator. This may not be the only thing you ever put together as far as.
Yeah, I'm going to put a lot.
But my point of view is if things don't... Comedy was the fact that the pieces don't fit. When you watch... I was 8 years old. My dad sent me to the store.
Mm-hmm.
It was on a Saturday. It was bitter cold. I had to walk past Catholic church. Mm-hmm. And I'm Catholic. So the church... And they were having a funeral.
Yeah.
It was so cold. It was so windy. I stopped because the doors opened and the pallbearers and the casket came out of the church.
Oh.
And headed down the stairs. And the first 2 pallbearers slipped and fell. And the casket bounced all the way down the steps and stuck under the Cadillac up against the tire. The tire kept the casket from sliding all the way out into the middle of the street.
Oh my God.
I'm 9 years old. It wasn't funny. But what do?
You probably laugh.
You get when you, but you like, and then the first thought you have is, why does this happen? Why does why do little birds? I was working for the census. I was walking down the sidewalk. I hear a snap and a thud. And I look in the street and there's a squirrel just splattered on the... I go to take a step over there, see if the squirrel's okay, and the squirrel finally caught its breath and ran away at like 90 miles an hour. So the squirrel wasn't hurt. It was going to be okay. But the squirrel jumped on a branch that couldn't hold its weight. Mm-hmm. Why does that happen? So my point is,
stuff happens.
Yeah. Short of, what I'm working on that'll be the next whole special, I have answers for all the stuff I brought up. But the stuff that I've seen happened when I was 8 and happened 8 weeks ago. So,
yeah.
It just...
The world...
It's the incongruity of all of that, which is why I have to smile inside when you talk about standing in front of the mirror, feeling good about this, potential, that, and the other thing. It will get stronger, it'll be fruitful, and then like everything else in the great Mandela or Wheel of Life, there will be the first time when you're 45, you get up off the couch, grab your side or your back and go, oh my God, that never hurt before.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward
to that. So all that is what you would say before is if you only get X amount of time, don't waste any, right?
Yeah, don't.
So,
yeah, that's one of the things that I like to promote is why waste your time. Not everyone even looks at the fact that your time is limited,
Right,
so
right.
What are you gonna do while you're here? Are you gonna do what you're told, or are you gonna do what you want?
Well, and then do you have a right to tell anybody else? Based on everything we know, nobody should smoke cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, well, who am I to tell anybody? What right does the government have to tell me I have to wear a mask? Well,
You can issue a warning, you can state your opinion, but nobody has to listen. There's no rule saying anyone has to listen to your opinion.
So, but at least we've gotten to a point where there aren't still some farmers that throw virgins into volcanoes to get it to rain.
Yeah, I don't think people are throwing... I don't know where all the volcanoes are, but there could be people... I don't know. There might be someone throwing someone into a volcano somewhere, for all I know. There's too much news for me to catch up. I don't think that would even make the news. Right. I don't think that's enough.
What if we get all the way to Mars
mm-hmm.
and find out that that's the only way to guarantee a safe way home?
So throw someone into a volcano?
No, throw a virgin into this volcano, and they all look at each other and realize none of us are virgins.
We're out of those. We ran out of those.
So.
Yeah, I love one of my favorite jokes of all time was I'm like 14 years old, maybe 15 years old, sophomore in high school, and this meme comes across my phone, just this joke, and it says in 1667 Dracula fed on virgins. In 2014 Dracula died of starvation.
Yeah.
It was a simple but funny joke,
Yeah.
So, what would you, if you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Can I have two?
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
The two I would have, number one would be invisible, and number two would be to be able to speak, or more importantly, read every language.
Mm.
And then I would go hide in the Vatican Library where all the confiscated books are?
Oh my gosh, there's a bunch of confiscated books. Man, that sounds like way better than what I was going for.
I've thought about this for a long time.
Yeah, see, the one that I always go to every week when I ask this question is, I want super speed. I love traveling.
Okay.
I like trying new food.
Okay.
I would love to be able to run to Chicago, get a deep dish, and be back here in 10 minutes.
Before it got cold.
Yeah, you know.
Right.
And also, you know, that's the ability to travel anywhere. You know, if I wanted to go
Right.
see Rio de Janeiro, I could be there.
Okay.
You know, super speed to the point where I could run across water type of
I get
super
that.
speed. Yeah,
There is the
that'd be fun for
Wizard
me.
of Time and Space. There's a Google. Do yourself a favor. I'm going to put this down too. The Wizard of Space and Time. Go ahead. Ask your next question.
The Wizard of Space and Time?
Yeah, it's an amazing. It's a guy with super speed that runs from L.A. to New York in about 5 minutes because they took all the footage and but he literally makes the whole trip and you make it.
That's super.
You'd like that.
Yeah, the reason I like that is, you know, the Flash. The Flash.
Yeah.
I love the TV show that they put on the CW network, and you know,
You know the only person that was really upset with the Flash, don't you? Mrs. Flash.
That's a good one. That's
There
a
are
good
some
one.
things you can't just rush through.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So you know, so I guess we've really talked about what got you into comedy, how far you've been, and how long did you take off of comedy?
I never have gone without doing comedy.
Okay.
I stopped going on tour, but because I did ultimately go to law school and became a criminal defense attorney. So I never packed up my suitcase and spent 8 months a year on the road. But hilarities, funny stop, charity work, you know, I would always do benefits, Coats for Kids, work with Mike Trevisano, and you know, I've always done at least a half a dozen shows a year. So It's never gone away, but it's never been to the fact where I got to go back.
I'm excited to see where your next touring goes. Like, I'm gonna I'm gonna be following along for sure, and I'd love to see the next time you get up at Funny Stop or something like that. Next time I'll be back at Funny Stop is I think the 29th and 30th. The Carter Doherty or Doherty. He did the amateur contest, and he got the feature set, or not the feature, the whatever the his first 15-minute set.
Okay.
So
his opening set.
yeah, he's gonna be the guy right before the feature. So
Okay.
He's doing that for the first time, and I'm excited to go see him because he's 19 years old. He's just getting into it. He's been doing it a year. He's a real grinder too. He really works hard at it. So I know he's one of those people that, you know, he goes to school down in Dayton, and he spends 3 or 4 nights of the week, instead of going out with his buddies, he goes out and tells jokes to crowds of 10 people. You know,
That's what you got to do.
and that's the respect. That's the grind that I really respect, because that's a role that I'm in right now. Instead of going out with my buddies on a Friday night, I'm going to stay home and I'm going to edit a video.
I lived in my car for 6 months in the parking lot of Caesar's Palace in Vegas
Wow.
to try to crack into show business.
Wow.
You do what you got to do.
And if you're not willing to do that, you don't want to be a part of show business. You don't want to be a creator. You don't want to live like that. That's one of the things that people don't realize is to live a life that you dream. You're gonna have to live a life. You're gonna have to do something that you dread to do that. You're gonna have to do something that not everyone else is willing to do. People are gonna look at you and say, "Are you really doing that?"
If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Mm-hmm. My football coach said that in high school. He said,
If it was easy.
He said, you think, you don't think every person in that school would be down on this field if it was easy? He said, oh man, I just remember on the first day of 2 days in the summer, you know, he said we'd work out, everyone felt like crap, body's hurting. He'd look at us and he'd go, "This is the best you're gonna feel for the rest of the year." And
He was right.
he was right.
My mother made me sit at the dinner table for 3 hours one night because I wouldn't eat my peas. And as soon as I took that last forkful and put it in my mouth and chewed it and swallowed it, I looked at her, and just as I started my smile, she said, "Good," and gave me 2 more spoonfuls.
Oh, no.
And then I picked up my fork and went, "I gotta eat this shit." So I just did. And I love peas today.
Peas are pretty good. I think they're not half bad. So we're getting towards the end here.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and do let's plug any of your information. Do you have anywhere where any social where people can reach out, can follow you on? Nothing?
No, I don't.
Do you have any show lined up that people can
No, I don't. I'm going to work really hard at figuring out how to set up a Google Drive. I'm going to edit some tape, and I will be around. What people can do if they want to help, or if they're just curious, or they want to be one of the first people to call into that radio show, is pick up the phone and call WNIR incessantly and tell them enough of just one-sided talk radio. Let's start getting the ball rolling and doing things like starting Sunday. And the stuff we've talked about. And everybody that's out there, I'll look forward to having this kind of conversation and how to fix things with them.
Yeah. Let's start the conversation, or continue the conversation.
Absolutely.
Really, the conversation. I think the conversation about the betterment of society has been quieted over the past years, and I think we need to make it a little louder, make it a little more mainstream. It's never going to be mainstream to be the change,
Right.
But let's try.
Fair enough.
So, last question of the day here.
Okay.
What's your dream?
That the people who have a lot to offer, but are afraid because they think it won't make any difference, or nobody cares, or they're not as important as everybody else, that I become a vessel, a conduit, a way for their voice to be heard. And that we stir up the pot, raise a little hell, and leave the world a little bit better than we found it, because I'm one of those people who believe we were put here to do more than just eat and shop.
Yeah, that's a beautiful dream. I think a lot of people out here can get behind that. I hope that a lot of people tune in and really learn during this episode. And just thank you guys for watching. Thank you for checking out the Dream Tour. Thank you. Remember, thank you for coming on. And
Thanks for having me.
You guys just remember to stay positive. Keep working towards whatever your goal is, whatever your dream is. Do something every day to make yourself a little bit better, and let's keep this conversation rolling. Let's make some change in this world.
See you next time.
Yeah. Subscribe, like, and subscribe. I always forget that part. Share with your friends. Thanks for watching.